11 seconds of silence, then a whisper, "She does, and she always will." That line was never supposed to leave a therapist's office, yet somehow it's everywhere, threaded through inboxes, whispered in press rooms, and sitting on hard drives labeled confidential across 2 continents. The question isn't just who leaked it, it's why and what they plan to do with it. It began like most royal scandals do. Quietly. A hushed rumor sliding through Buckingham's marble hallways. You didn't hear this from me. Between aides, a closed-door meeting in a Mayfair townhouse. Then, bang. Headlines exploded, leaked psychiatric notes. Prince Harry's private therapy sessions exposed. Unauthorized release was the official phrase tossed around. But this wasn't a misfiled email. These were raw, unguarded confessions. Harry's fears, his insecurities, his darkest self-talk, meant for a clinician's eyes only. Suddenly they were being traded like collectibles in London and LA, passed around like talismans in a war over narrative. Palace spokespeople tried to swat it away, unverified, possibly fabricated fate, but it was too late. One document allegedly contained a line that froze blood in every comms office involved. Subject displays signs of identity confusion related to separation from royal duty. Repeated references to being erased from his legacy, likely linked to domestic pressures. Domestic pressures, everyone knew what that was code for. Where did these notes come from? Whispered answers pointed to a private clinic in California. The one Harry supposedly leaned on during the height of Meg-Ixit. Someone inside had copied something. But what made this leak different was its timing. Days, literally days, before the files began circulating, Meghan had been in back-to-back meetings with a major streamer in LA. A royal blogger tweeting under the handle Windsor Watch threw gasoline on the fire. This leak wasn't random. Meghan's camp knew what they were doing. It's PR blackmail, plain and simple. Allegation, sure. But it stuck in people's minds. Then came the kicker. A Netflix producer reportedly read the notes and muttered, "It reads like a script already." According to a source close to Team Sussex, Meghan supposedly said this would flip the narrative. Position Harry, not as her appendage, but as the victim of the crown, the therapy, the diary, the isolation. Perfect support beams for her version. Except they didn't fully match, and that mismatch starts the real story. Because while the internet was foaming over leaked lines and the palace was scrambling to smother embers, a second fire was already lit in the very clinic where those notes were born. A former employee speaking under anonymity to a British outlet claimed that one of the therapists outright warned Meghan's team, "Do not touch these files. It violates patient trust," she allegedly said. "It could collapse everything you're building." But allegedly, they didn't listen. According to that insider, Meghan reached out in early June under the innocuous pretense of documentary accuracy. She wanted to fully understand Harry's mental health journey to protect him in upcoming press cycles. That sounds noble, some. But when talks drifted to actual documentation, internal alarms flared. An email from a staffer leaked later carried the phrase "emotional peaks" in bold. "The viewers have to feel Harry's pain," she wrote. People on staff felt sick reading it. Back at the palace, King Charles reportedly called an unscheduled meeting. Lord Chamberlain, legal counsel, senior comms, everyone in the room. They know she had access, someone inside told a journalist. Now they're trying to prove intent. Then another bomb. A streaming executive told a tabloid that Meghan had shown snippets of the therapy notes, claiming Harry had given verbal consent. No one saw a release form. One line was underlined in red. "Sometimes I feel like she's rewriting who I was and I can't stop it." According to reports, that exact line landed in an early pitch document for a new docuseries concept. Tentative title, The Forgotten Prince. The framing? Harry as wounded hero, Meghan as the lens. But there was a problem. The notes didn't entirely back her claims, and if the palace was rattled before, what came next had them barricading the vault. While the world fought over the first wave of leaks, a second document, one that wasn't supposed to exist, began quietly circulating through Westminster. This wasn't a typed summary, it was a handwritten progress report, penned by Harry's primary psychiatrist during one of his darkest stretches in 2021, labeled Emotional Regression, March to May 2021. 5 sessions, each logged after the infamous Oprah interview. Harry allegedly spiraling with anxiety, worried he'd lost control of his own story. Under a page titled Recurring Themes, one sentence was underlined twice. Feels torn between loyalty to wife and to truth. Fears becoming a mouthpiece for her pain, rather than healing his own. That single line triggered a lockdown inside Clarence's house. Legal teams were summoned. Archivists were ordered to double-check sealed files. Because if those words slipped publicly, it didn't just dent the image of unity, it raised a sinister specter. Emotional coercion. An intelligence analyst linked to Parliament's Private Ethics Committee told a reporter, "Clinicians don't usually use phrasing like that unless there's real concern. If Harry feared becoming a mouthpiece, someone was scripting." Quietly, a BBC linguistics breakdown circulated comparing Harry's vocabulary before and after 2019. Phrases like lived experience, my truth, emotional truth-telling, all heavily present in Meghan's own speeches, suddenly dominated his post-royal interviews. Coincidence? Maybe. But in Netflix's development pipeline, and a frustrated producer allegedly sent out a memo. Are we building a documentary or a puppet show? Cornered, the palace prepped for war with a crisis PR firm. Their single objective, stop the final file from leaking too late. Because someone on Harry's former security detail had already decided to blow the whistle. It began as a cryptic phone call to a mid-level Daily Express reporter. The caller didn't leave a name, just, "I worked Sussex detail, I saw what she did with his files. I'm done keeping it quiet. Bye." The next morning, the paper had audio. By noon, the world had a name. Gareth Lockwood, badge S-2215. He served the Sussexes in California for 11 months. In his interview, Gareth claimed he personally delivered packages between Harry's psychiatrist and Meghan's team, 2 folders each time. One, general notes for Harry's own review. The other, a red-stamped file labeled "Do Not Circulate." Gareth said Meghan opened both. He alleged she photographed pages from the red file and saved them to a cloud folder titled Project Wellspring. What's Project Wellspring? And according to Gareth, a code name for a multi-platform emotional rebrand Meghan's creative consultants were crafting. The goal? Reshape public memory of Harry, make him more broken so she could be seen as the healer. When Gareth raised an eyebrow, his supervisor told him, "Stay in your lane. We're here to protect her image, not question it." Then Gareth dropped another claim. In January, Meghan requested a background check on one of Harry's former UK therapists. Why? To see if that doctor had spoken to the press. And she had to control the narrative, Gareth quoted. Those were her exact words. While tabloids chewed on Gareth, a second figure surfaced, this time through an investigative podcast. He called himself Castle Red 4, former security, ironclad NDA. He refused to show his face, but his voice, that was enough. There were nights Harry would sit outside alone. He said Meghan didn't like it. She'd text him to come in, but he'd stare at the sky like he was remembering a version of himself that didn't exist anymore. Then the line that made the host go silent. I saw her go through his therapy journals once. His phone was unlocked. The Notes app was open. I was on the stairs. She didn't know I could see. She was screenshotting sections, smiling, not laughing. That kind of smile people have when they're in control. Castle Red 4 wasn't done. He claimed that during the Netflix docu-prep in early 2024, Meghan's team held late-night calls with producers without Harry. She'd say things like, "We need the part where he said he didn't feel protected." Or, "Let's use the Windsor flashback here, it humanizes him." This wasn't documentary work, it was choreography. Within 48 hours of the episode dropping, it vanished. But not before a clip hit Twitter. This is dark. Meghan used Harry's trauma like a film treatment. He's not the star, he's the screenplay. Journalists worldwide smelled blood. A German investigative reporter dug into Netflix's pitch archive and found a file labeled Project Chrysalis. Inside, a mood board of Harry's life phases. Beside it, a column titled Emotional Leverage Points. One bullet, pulled straight from the leaked psychiatric notes. Session 6, she makes me feel like I owe her my pain. The issue wasn't whether Meghan used Harry's mental health for content, it was whether she planned it and wrapped it in royal tragedy from the start. While media meltdowns erupted, the real eruption detonated behind palace gates on July 20th. Multiple insiders say a private confrontation between Prince William and Harry took place at a secure estate outside London. It was meant to be a brotherly reset, off the record, no advisors. But when William brought up the progress report, Harry reportedly snapped. Harry believed Meghan had selectively used emotional entries for authenticity in her pitches, just enough to feel real. William hit back with the handwritten pages. "You're being turned into a character in her film, Harry," he said, "and you don't even have final cut." Security was told to wait outside. That same evening, Kate was sighted heading into a separate location for a meeting with senior palace advisors. This wasn't just about betrayal, it was about legacy, and the looming image of a future queen filtered through the lens of someone allegedly rewriting royal trauma. Then, Another shock. An audio file anonymously sent to a tabloid allegedly captured a discussion between Meghan and a Netflix liaison. In it, a woman believed to be Meghan says, "We'll use Diana's legacy to frame the grief. That's the emotional gateway for the audience. If we can draw a line from her pain to Harry's, it becomes generational. And that's where Kate fades." Those last 4 words, "that's where Kate fades," were plastered across every front page by dawn. The palace issued nothing. Instead, Queen Camilla was photographed clutching an envelope stamped "Confidential Deep Files." Message received: the Windsors would not be blindsided again. Meghan radio silent. No Instagram drops, no leaks, no carefully timed sources closed quotes, just silence. As July's final weekend crept in, something unprecedented happened inside Buckingham Palace. King Charles, after months of resisting public mudslinging, approved a confidential draft statement designed for release if Meghan's series crossed one more line. Label: for emergency circulation only. One sentence stood out. Certain accounts and documents currently being referenced were never authorized for public distribution and misrepresent key periods in Prince Harry's recovery process. This wasn't a polite no comment, this was a gauntlet. Before anyone could hit publish, a second voice memo surfaced, dated 2 months prior. Allegedly Meghan again. "If we lose control of Harry's past, we lose the whole story. This trauma is the heartbeat, we just have to shape it." That line reportedly made Queen Camilla step out of the Situation Room visibly shaken. Later, a senior aide told a paper, "We protected Harry from the press for years. Who protects him from this?" At that point, the press smelled blood, not ink. Is Harry's silence the most dangerous kind? Was Diana's legacy repackaged without consent? Who owns a prince's pain? Headlines screamed. Behind the scenes, palace officials started quiet talks with Netflix. Could they blur diary quotes, delay release dates, remove psychiatric references entirely? Meghan's lawyers shot back. He's her husband. He can speak his truth, however she helps him shape it. A cold sentence. A scary one. This wasn't a PR battle anymore. It was a moral one. By the time the final note leaked, minds were already made up, but the palace had clung to one last paragraph, a therapist's entry dated April 22, 2022. Filming had wrapped its first phase. Harry had pulled back from interviews. Staff whispered he'd stopped sleeping through the night. The note read, "Subject is aware his personal narrative is no longer fully his own." He uses the term curated memory to describe interviews. Expressed fear that his grief is being packaged and sold in ways he no longer controls. It ends with one line. When asked who holds the power now, subject paused for 11 seconds before whispering, "She does. And she always will." That was the quote that broke Buckingham's silence. A senior palace aide allegedly told the Telegraph, "The monarchy can survive scandal. It cannot survive the rewriting of its children's pain into entertainment." Inside royal circles, a raging debate reignited. Did they pull Harry back into the fold? Or has he crossed a line there's no pathway home from? Kate's close friend posted a cryptic Insta story that many believed was aimed squarely at the Sussex narrative. "You don't borrow someone's wounds for your spotlight, you heal yours, or you bleed on the innocent." Hours later, without warning, the Netflix docuseries was delayed indefinitely. Streaming insiders whispered that Meghan's production deal had slipped into active review. Legally gray areas, an executive admitted. But once it became clear Harry's words weren't always, fully his, we had to reevaluate the ethics. William was reportedly incandescent, not even at the lines themselves, but because his own children, George, Charlotte, Louis, had been tugged into the narrative indirectly. Then one last grenade rolled onto the internet, an unaired clip from the docu showing Meghan discussing Diana. "There's a reason people connect to pain," she says. "Diana's story taught the world to cry. This time they'll learn to feel through Harry." Cut from the final edit, but leaked now, it felt colder. The palace still says nothing. Harry is reportedly back in therapy, this time without cameras, producers, or mood boards. Meghan? Silent. But at this point, silence is louder than any headline. So here's the real question. When does telling your truth turn into selling someone else's? When does narrative control become narrative theft? And if a prince can't protect his own pain from becoming primetime content, who can? Maybe the bigger secret isn't hidden in a red-stamped folder or deleted podcast clip. Maybe it's this. You can leak files, spin quotes, frame legacies, and choreograph grief, but you can't script what people decide to feel when they finally see through it. And somehow, that might be the only power Harry still owns.